Hello and welcome to the Brunton podcast series. This is off the back of a fascinating presentation I actually heard in San Antonio at the Corrugated Week, which was an event hosted by AICC in Tappy last September. I'm joined today by Steve York. Steve, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Obviously, an awful lot of colleagues in the North American market will know who you are, but for the possibly more international audience, tell us a little bit about yourself, Steve.
Thanks for hosting me today, Dan. My name is Steve York, and I worked 46 years in the corrugated industry, beginning in May of 1974 and retiring in August of 2020. During that time, I started out as a off-bearer off of a corrugator with myself and 6 of my friends. And after a week, I was the only one left. The other 6 people had quit. And I progressed through my career from a frontline supervisor, production manager, general manager, and so forth. And I finished the last 10 years of my career as senior VP of manufacturing, quality, and engineering for a $10 billion company in the United States.
So, Steve, obviously you mentioned there multiple decades of experience, very much on the sort of production and engineering side. I'm sure over that time you've seen some pretty neat developments in full line corrugators and full line flexos and rotary die cutters, etc. But the reason we're joining together today on this podcast is I understand you're doing some consultative work with BW Paper Systems, and this year marks the 30th anniversary of a pretty neat invention. Tell us about that invention and how you got involved with it.
A company that was a forerunner of Barry Waymiller Paper Systems invented the first twin box slitter in 1993. And at that time, I was a production manager that was struggling a little bit in Omaha, Nebraska. And one of the reasons I was struggling in my job is that particular market is pretty small. And so you had to be able to run boxes efficiently that were in the market, because it wasn't like, New York or Chicago, where you could go have a better chance to sell business that better fit your equipment. And so as a result, we had a large percentage of our business that was 14 inches or less, and we had some serious problems handling it from the corrugator through the automatic conveyor system that existed at that particular time, and getting it to the flexo to be converted. And multiple times it would, you'd either have to run extremely small stacks off the corrugator, or the stacks would fall down on the corrugator. And it would also compromise the speed of the corrugator. And obviously, if you were picking up small blanks, it would be a lot of downtime on the flexo. And so I spent some time about 1995 researching possible solutions to that. And I looked at a variety of things, because I wasn't going to be able to change the market. And I finally settled on the twin box slitter. And so we purchased the first twin box slitter in the fall of 1995, and it was installed on or about the middle of January of 1996. And a couple of things happened fairly quickly. Is the handling problems went away, because blank sizes that were, down to 10 inches became 20 inches. And if it got down to 14 inches, it became 28. So all of a sudden, all these handling problems literally went away overnight. And productivity on this particular flexo, when we were running blank sizes that were 18 inches or less, which was approximately 50% of our business, we were able to double productivity on the flexo. Another thing that I didn't count on that happened, that was kind of a unintended nice result, was that corrugator productivity went up roughly 15 to 20% in that particular plant. And I did absolutely nothing from an operations or a capital standpoint to accomplish that. And what I attribute that to is the elimination of handling the one-up narrow width sheets. and we were able to run taller stacks off the corrugator. Waste went down because we're throwing away fewer bottom sheets, and productivity of the corrugator and the flexo both went up. So it was one of the things that I learned after I got some experience with the twin box slitter was that it was one of the few things that improves the whole plant, not just one machine. Additionally, because of the fact that we were running 2 boxes instead of 1, productivity in the plant, profitability in the plant really improved as well, because, and the way I attributed that primarily is because we weren't paying the labor for the second box that was run. So it turned out to be an extremely successful enterprise back in 1995 and 1996 when I was a production manager.
So
I got
Steve,
promoted.
Steve, can I just jump in there and just ask? Can you explain a little bit, the technicality of how this works? Is it a wheel in, wheel out system? Is it something that you can run the flexo folder glue with it in situ, out of situ? I mean, how does it work? Give us some of the technical background on it.
Well, essentially, what it looks like is a giant horizontal bandsaw. And so what happens is you produce 2 up boxes off the corrugator. It'll have 4 scores in it. And then it is centered over the blade. And then there's a top pusher that pushes the 2 up boxes on the blade. And there's also holders or hold down arms that retract into the machine that holds the blanks as they go through the cut. And then you end up with 2 boxes or 2 stacks of boxes that are this, same width. And that's how, you double productivity with the machine.
And are there any limitations to how the unit works?
There's a few limitations. The first is, stack height going into the machine. And I look at it in terms of the maximum number of boxes that you can cut, whether it's C flute or B flute. And you can cut up to 40 boxes on B flute and 30 boxes on C flute, which is typically, sufficient to do that. But if you wanted to do more than that, then there'd be some physical limitations that wouldn't allow you to do that. Additionally, there's a limit on the maximum across machine direction that could be cut. So a flat sheet is 84 inches. When it's folded, it's 42. And that's the maximum blank size that can go through the twin box slitter. Additionally, and I credit BWP from my first experience in 1995 to, closer to today, they worked with me awfully hard to be able to get their original machine from 12 cuts a minute to 16 cuts a minute, which accommodates a 400 kick a minute modern flexo folder gluer, and at 25 per bundle, which yields 16 cuts per minute or 800 boxes. So those are some limits of the machine, but it's not significantly impactful to the day in, day out operation of a typical corrugator plant.
And in your discussions with BWP, is there scope to increase the width of board that can be handled? I mean, what are the next steps and the next evolutions, do you think?
I know that we're in BWP is in process of looking to increase the amount in terms of that 42 inches to something approaching 55 inches closed. And that's in development right now. And as they make the machine bigger, we want to also be able to retain the same amount of cuts per minute. And that process is being developed as we speak. So the real initiative is to be able to handle a bigger box at the same speed as one can handle a small box.
And Steve, obviously you've seen this product and utilized this product for its full 30 years pretty much of its existence. If you look at how the industry has changed over that last 30 years, Do you still feel that it's as relevant today as it was back then, or would you say it's even more relevant today? When we start looking at smaller run lengths, smaller box sizes, etc. What's your feel? Is it still relevant today?
I think it's more relevant today than it was in 1995 for the following reasons, which are in 1995, the typical box plant was running approximately 630 million feet, and there were 650 corrugated plants in the United States. So you fast forward 30 years, there's now approximately 450 corrugators in the United States with an average production per plant approaching 1.2 billion square feet. So the typical box plant is producing more footage with fewer machines and fewer people. So if you can take a twin box slitter and put it behind a state-of-the-art flexo and double your productivity on approximately 60% of the mix running through your plant, which I think is very possible today, I don't see how you can not pursue that. Additionally, if you make it more efficient, people are getting more and more problems in a typical corrugator plant today than when I was a production manager in terms of just securing people to run the equipment. So if you can't yet completely eliminate employees with something like artificial intelligence, you certainly want to make them more productive by doubling the productivity on the majority of your mix. Additionally, in terms of utilization percentage, with the explosion of e-commerce and other boxes have gotten smaller that didn't exist in anyone's mind in 1995, there's a higher percentage of small boxes today than there were when I was production manager in Omaha in 1995. So for those reasons, if anything, I think the twin box slitter is a lot more relevant today than it was in 1995 when I first got involved with it.
And let's just try and sum up as well in terms of we're looking at the advantages and the benefits to a box plant. Obviously, you talked about you see increase from the corrugator thanks to steadier handling of bigger board sheets. What about the sustainability angle? Because I'm guessing that putting this system on a high-speed flexo potentially means you could consolidate multiple machines into one machine center, right?
Correct. In the last, as I said earlier in our discussion, the last 10 years of my career, I had responsibilities for capital selection, strategy, implementation for a company that had $10 billion in sales in US dollars and over 100 plants. And so my experience was that you could take, on average, at least 2 and sometimes 3 machines out and replace it with a single state-of-the-art flexo in combination with a twin box slitter. So that would be 2/3 less maintenance, lubrication, electricity, and so forth. And from a sustainability standpoint, that would be gained by that particular strategy. Additionally, it makes a complicated situation in terms of hiring and retaining hourly employees to run the equipment a heck of a lot easier than it was, because you need 1/3 of the number of employees that you did when you were having to operate 3 machines.
Well, Steve, thank you so much indeed for joining us today. I just find it fascinating that to have the experience of someone like yourself that has seen a product and utilized a product that's been around for 30 years that is still doing the job that as successfully today as it was when it was launched. So, Steve York, thank you ever so much indeed for joining me.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.